Right friends, welcome back to Insight for 14th week, and we are going to deliberate on 3 issues. First one is 59 Indian fishermen were arrested by Pakistan. This is a regular feature, and we are going to deliberate on what is the dispute of Sar Creek. Then RBI reduced policy rates by 0.25%. Now repo rate stands at 6.5%. More than that, the banking system has transitioned from base rate to MCLR. Because of these two reasons, loans are expected to be cheaper. Then first meeting of Banks Board Bureau was held in Mumbai. What do you understand by Banks Board Bureau? These are 3 things we are going to deliberate in this week's Insight. The first one is 59 Indian fishermen were arrested by Pakistan. It is due to the maritime boundary dispute between India and Pakistan. And this maritime boundary dispute is there for several years. In fact, it is the disputed boundary between India and Pakistan, and this is locally known as Banganga. This Sar Creek is locally known as Banganga, and it is the estuary bordering Sindh state of Pakistan and Gujarat state in India. And you may ask, what is estuary? Estuary means it is a partly enclosed coastal body, or you can say when rivers enter into sea or oceans, then these estuaries are formed. And here what will happen, sometimes sea water enter into rivers, sometimes when rivers are in high flows, river water forces sea water out of it. So this way, in this region, that means in estuaries, this mixing of saline water and fresh water takes place, and this mixing of saline water and fresh water is known as brackish water. Brackish water means the water is more saltier than river water and less saltier than sea water, or you can say estuary is the transition of river environment and maritime environment, right? So this estuary, this Sar Creek, is the estuary and situated between Sindh state of Pakistan and Gujarat state of India. And as I have already told you, it is the fluctuating tidal channel, and it is rich in not only fishing resources, and the area is rich in oil, gas, minerals and plant life, and this is the area suitable for commercial exploitation. Because of all these reasons, this boundary dispute could not be resolved till date. Right friends, if you want more about the dispute between Pakistan and India, the Pakistan's view is, as per paragraph 9 of the Sindh government resolution of 1914, Pakistan cites 1914 resolution signed between government of Sindh and Rao Maharaja of Kutch. Kutch was a princely state at that time. So government of Sindh and this Rao Maharaja of Kutch, there was one Sindh government resolution of 1914 signed by these two people, and boundaries were earmarked showing this Sar Creek as part of Sindh, that is Pakistan. That means, as per this, the boundary is towards the east of creek. Please look into this slide. As per that resolution, or you can say as per Pakistan's viewpoint, this blue line represents the boundary. That means entire Sar Creek will go to Pakistan. And India's version is paragraph 10 of the same resolution says that the creek is navigable. And at the same time, India says river boundaries are to be decided by the line of lowest elevation, and that is the mid channel, otherwise known as the Talweg. So this creek's boundary is to be decided as a mid channel, as the boundary between both the countries. Right? As per the theory proposed by India, the mid channel should be the boundary because it is a navigable channel. For navigable channels, the boundaries will be the points of lowest elevation or mid channel, or you can say Talweg. Right? So India's viewpoint is this creek is to be shared by India and Pakistan. Pakistan's viewpoint is as per 1914 agreement that entirely belongs to Pakistan, but India says it is navigable channel, it is to be shared between both the countries. And Pakistan disagree with India's viewpoint, as Pakistan says this Thalweg theory is not applicable for tidal estuaries, right? It is applicable for river channels but not for tidal estuaries. That is the viewpoint of Pakistan. So, under these circumstances, the matter is a standstill today, no conclusion, and several times Indian fishermen are being arrested by Pakistan, right? The other option left is approaching United Nations for constitution of arbitration tribunal under Article 287C of UNCLOS. It appears that the dispute may drag on for some more time. Right friends, if you look at the second issue, RBI reduced policy rates by 0.25%. Now repo rate stands at 6.5% and loans are expected to be cheaper. And I would like to tell you, Reserve Bank of India announces monetary policy once in 2 months. And this is the first monetary policy of 2016-17. And in this monetary policy, Reserve Bank of India reduced repo rate by 0.25%. Now the repo rate means it gives a signal to the market with regard to the interest rate structure, and repo rate now the lowest since January 2011, right? Now after reducing the repo rate, Reserve Bank of India is more worried about monetary policy transmission. You may ask, what is monetary policy transmission? When Reserve Bank of India is reducing repo rate, it has to be transmitted to lower lending rates by banks. It is not taking place, whatever the reason. Now RBI is concerned about monetary policy transmission. So as to ensure monetary policy transmission, recently base rate was replaced by MCLR. MCLR is marginal cost of funds based lending rate. Now the lending rates linked with MCLR since April 1, as RBI reduced repo rate. Not only that, as the loan rates are linked to MCLR from April 1, now RBI hopes to have monetary policy transmission, right? And how the monetary policy transmission takes place, please look into this slide. When Reserve Bank of India is reducing policy rates, then what will happen? Then it will result in reduction in lending rates by banks. Reduction in lending rates by banks. When banks reduce their lending rates, for example, previous home loan rate was 10%. Banks reduced them to 9.5%. Let us take another example. Previous corporate loan rates were 12%. Suppose banks reduce it to 11.5%. Because of reduction in interest rates, what will happen? More credit will flow. More people will borrow money. Companies will borrow money. Common man will borrow money. That will lead to more demand for goods. Ultimately, demand will be created, which will result in more GDP. So, when the Reserve Bank of India is reducing policy rates, it will lead to more GDP, and at the same time, RBI also worries about rise in inflation. That's why RBI has to strike a balance between this policy rates, GDP, as well as inflation. So, RBI has to consider, or you can say has to maintain delicate balance between GDP as well as inflation, right? And if you look at other salient features of first bi-monthly monetary policy, CRR, that is the cash reserve ratio, left unchanged at 4%. Then minimum daily maintenance of cash reserve ratio cut to 90% from 95%. That means CRR is 4%. Banks have to keep money in cash form aside as a separate account with Reserve Bank of India, that is cash reserve ratio. previous stipulation was 95% is to be kept. 95% of 4% of total deposits. Now it is reduced to 90% of 4% of total deposits, and this is the softening of monetary policy, or you can say these features points towards a dovish monetary policy. And please don't forget, there are two terms used. One is a dovish monetary policy, second one is hawkish monetary policy. When the monetary policy is in tune with reducing interest rates, that is called dovish monetary policy. When the monetary policy points towards higher interest rates, it is known as hawkish monetary policy. As several features in this monetary policy point towards reduction in interest rates, this monetary policy, you can say, is somewhat dovish in nature. GDP growth expected at 7.6% in 2016-17. Retail inflation will be around 5% within the RBI let down target. And for first quarter of 2016-17, statutory liquidity ratio at 21.25%. Now this statutory liquidity ratio, banks are required to be kept aside either in cash form, gold form, or in government securities. Now it is 21.25% for the first quarter of 2016-17. Subsequently, they will be reduced by 0.25% each quarter till fourth quarter of 2016-17. It was announced in previous monetary policy. And Reserve Bank will explore possibilities to give licenses for other differentiated banks. Here, I would like to tell you few points. What is the difference between universal bank and differentiated bank? Universal bank is the bank which has got all the features which are required to give loans to different types of borrowers. Examples are at present SBI, ICICI, all these are examples of universal banks, but differentiated banks are payment banks, small finance banks. These are examples of differentiated banks. Right friends, now finally net result of a slightly dovish monetary policy and MCLR. Now the monetary policy is slightly dovish, and as I have already told you, because of a reduction in repo rate by 0.25%, then what will happen? Lending rates will be reduced, and subsequently more credit outflow is expected. Not only that, as the switch over to MCLR from April 1 already took place, then it will ensure better monetary transmission, and hence interest rate structure on loans may further reduce. Increase of reverse repo rate by 0.25% will have a positive effect on the banks, because reverse repo rate is the rate where banks will get income when they are parking their money with the Reserve Bank of India. Increase by 0.25% will have positive effect on banking system, and this, as I have already told you, reducing the daily balance from 95% to 90% of CRR will liberate another around 20,000 crores of rupees in the banking system. This will result in more liquidity, and further it may reduce interest rates. So all the features, if you amalgamate them with MCLR, will result in reduction in interest rates. Overall, you can say this monetary policy is slightly dovish in nature. First meeting of Banks Board Bureau was held in Mumbai. All of you are well aware. Banks Board Bureau Chairman is Vinod Roy. There are 3 members and some other ex officio members. The first meeting was held in Mumbai, and the issues presently looked after by Banks Board Bureau include how to fill the vacancies in bank boards and those of non-executive chairmen, and how to solve the problem of stressed assets. You may ask, what is a stressed asset? Stressed assets include non-performing assets as well as restructured assets in the banking system, and how to support public sector banks to come up with winning strategies. And this Bank Board Bureau, if you recapitulate, this was established basically to improve the health of public sector banks, and this was established based on PJ Nayak committee recommendations. This is an interim measure. Ultimately, the process for improving the health of public sector banks is bank investment company will be set up ultimately, and as the process starts now under phase 1, that means till the bank investment company becomes operational, this bank's board bureau will advise on all board appointments, including those of chairman and executive directors. This is initial step, bank's board bureau. Subsequently, once this bank investment company is established, you may ask, what is bank investment company? Bank investment company is the company to which the government will transfer its holdings in future. In future, government's ownership in banks will be transferred to bank investment company, and once this bank investment company is established, then the functions which are being undertaken by BBB will be transferred to BIC. Basically, BIC will strive to professionalize the bank boards. And finally, once bank boards are professionalized, some of the functions of this bank investment company will be transferred to bank boards. So, this is the phase-wise program to bring back the public sector banks to good health. Public sector banks are suffering because of high non-performing assets. Not only that, because of less CASA ratios, their profits are under strain. So as to invigorate the public sector banks, this phase-wise program was envisaged, and this Banks Board Bureau is the first step. It will be followed by Bank Investment Company, and subsequently bank boards will be strengthened. Right friends, with this let us conclude the insight. Please do join for other modules, and in the news analysis we are deliberating on Panama leaks this week. Right friends, have a nice day. Thank you.